Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night with a sudden stabbing pain in your calf or foot? That's a leg cramp. And it's not just annoying, it's your body screaming for help. In this video, we're going to break down the top 3 foods that naturally stop leg cramps by giving your body exactly what it's missing. Forget random guesswork and over-the-counter fixes. You're going to learn the root cause and how to fix it through real nutrition. Let's dive in. When people experience leg cramps, especially at night, the most common reaction is to assume they are simply dehydrated or maybe just overtired. They might reach for a bottle of water or try to walk it off, but the real issue often goes much deeper. Leg cramps are not just caused by dehydration or fatigue, they are a direct reflection of mineral imbalances in the body. And until those imbalances are corrected, the cramps will keep coming back. Let's break this down. Your muscles contract and relax based on electrical signals sent through the nervous system. These signals depend on specific minerals called electrolytes, namely magnesium, potassium, calcium, and sodium. These minerals create electrical gradients that allow muscles to contract and relax smoothly. When one or more of these minerals are low, those electrical messages get distorted, leading to involuntary contractions, also known as cramps. Magnesium is one of the most important minerals for muscle relaxation. When you're deficient in magnesium, your muscles are more likely to stay in a contracted state. Magnesium works like a natural calcium blocker. Without enough magnesium, calcium can flood the muscle cells and overexcite them, causing spasms. Unfortunately, many people are deficient in magnesium because of soil depletion, poor diet, caffeine, stress, and certain medications that deplete this mineral. Potassium is another big player in the prevention of leg cramps. It's essential for balancing the electrical signals across muscle cell membranes. Unlike calcium, which promotes contraction, potassium helps with relaxation. When potassium is too low, your muscles may become hyper-responsive and cramp unexpectedly, especially during sleep when your electrolyte levels are slightly lower. While bananas are often promoted as the go-to source for potassium, foods like avocados, leafy greens, and salmon provide much more bioavailable potassium with fewer sugars. Calcium, often misunderstood, is also involved in muscle function. It is responsible for triggering muscle contraction. The key is not simply how much calcium you have, but how well it's regulated. That's where magnesium and vitamin K2 come in. If calcium is unregulated, meaning it isn't being directed to the bones and teeth, it can deposit in soft tissues and cause problems like cramps or even calcification in the artery. So it's not just about taking calcium, it's about balance. Sodium is sometimes overlooked because of the fear surrounding salt, but sodium is critical for maintaining hydration and transmitting nerve impulses. When you sweat or urinate frequently, especially when fasting or consuming a low-carb diet, you lose sodium rapidly. Without adequate sodium, potassium can't function properly, and this creates a domino effect that leads to cramping. Sea salt or Himalayan salt in small, balanced amounts can help correct this issue, especially for people following ketogenic or intermittent fasting protocols. Another often ignored factor is the overconsumption of diuretics, not just coffee and alcohol, but also certain blood pressure medications. Diuretics force the body to flush out fluids, but with those fluids go precious minerals. So someone may feel hydrated because they're drinking water, but they're actually flushing out more electrolytes than they're taking in. That's why simply drinking more water doesn't always fix the cramp. You're diluting the minerals even more. Aging also plays a role. As we age, our ability to absorb nutrients from food decreases. Stomach acid production declines, which means even if someone is eating magnesium-rich foods, they might not be breaking them down efficiently. Plus, seniors are more likely to be on medications that deplete minerals, making cramping a frequent and frustrating issue. The body becomes more sensitive to small imbalances, and even minor deficiencies can manifest as nighttime cramping, restlessness, or twitching. It's important to understand that the solution is not a one-size-fits-all fix. Throwing supplements at the problem isn't always effective if your digestive system isn't absorbing them properly. This is why food-based mineral sources are so powerful. They come with the cofactors needed for absorption, like fat-soluble vitamins, enzymes, and other trace minerals. And incorporating foods like dark leafy greens, avocados, raw nuts, fermented dairy, and sea vegetables can drastically improve your body's mineral balance. Stress is another hidden culprit. Chronic stress raises cortisol levels, which depletes magnesium and potassium. Most people don't realize that every time the body enters a fight or flight state, it pulls minerals from the tissues to prepare for action. If you're constantly stressed, you're constantly losing your mineral reserves. Combine that with poor sleep, processed foods, and stimulant use, and it becomes the perfect storm for recurring leg cramps. The real takeaway is that leg cramps are an intelligent signal, your body's way of telling you that something is off. Instead of masking the symptom with painkillers or simply drinking more water, it's better to trace the source of the imbalance. Look at your mineral intake, your stress levels, your diet, and even your medication use. When you begin to address the underlying causes of electrolyte imbalance, the cramps begin to disappear, not because you're suppressing them, but because you're correcting the reason they occurred in the first place. When it comes to preventing muscle cramps, especially those sudden painful leg spasms that strike at night, there are 3 essential minerals that must be in balance: magnesium, potassium, and calcium. This trio acts as the cramp-fighting triad, each one playing a distinct but interconnected role in how your muscles contract and relax. Understanding how these minerals work individually and together is critical, not just for comfort, but for muscular health, cardiovascular function, and overall electrolyte stability. Let's start with magnesium, often referred to as the relaxation mineral. It's involved in over 300 biochemical reactions in the body, and muscle relaxation is one of its most critical roles. When you don't have enough magnesium, your muscles become hyper-excitable, meaning they can contract suddenly and involuntarily. This is exactly what happens during a cramp. Magnesium acts like a natural calcium blocker. It helps pull calcium out of the muscle cells after contraction so they can relax. Without adequate magnesium, calcium builds up in the muscle tissue, leading to prolonged contraction or spasms. Magnesium deficiency is incredibly common, even in people who eat relatively healthy diets. Modern farming practices have stripped the soil of magnesium, so even magnesium-rich foods contain less than they once did. Add to that high levels of stress, caffeine consumption, and the use of certain medications like diuretics or proton pump inhibitors, and it becomes easy to see why so many people are walking around in a low magnesium state without realizing it. Cramping, especially at night, becomes one of the body's ways of signaling that this key mineral is missing. Next in the triad is potassium. Potassium works hand in hand with magnesium, and it plays a vital role in muscle relaxation and nerve transmission. While magnesium helps muscles release, potassium helps regulate the fluid and electrolyte balance inside and outside muscle cells, ensuring proper contraction relaxation cycles. A deficiency in potassium causes muscle cells to become overly reactive. This leads to spasms and cramps, particularly in large muscle groups like the calves, thighs, or feet. Potassium is also required to support normal blood pressure, heart rhythm, and hydration. However, most people don't get anywhere near the recommended daily intake. This is largely because the standard Western diet is lacking in whole, potassium-rich foods like leafy greens, avocados, salmon, squash, and coconut water. Bananas, though often cited as a potassium source, are not the most efficient choice due to their relatively low potassium to sugar ratio. For those on a low-carb or ketogenic diet, potassium needs increase even more, and without proper intake, leg cramps can become frequent. Well, now let's turn to calcium, the third member of the triad. Most people associate calcium with bones and teeth, but it's also a major player in muscle function, specifically in initiating muscle contraction. When a nerve stimulates a muscle, calcium is released into the muscle cell, prompting it to contract. Then magnesium steps in to help it relax. The problem arises when calcium is out of balance with magnesium. Too much calcium relative to magnesium can lead to excessive contractions, tightness, spasms, and cramps. Interestingly, you may not be calcium deficient, but rather you may be struggling with calcium misplacement. This happens when calcium ends up in soft tissues instead of bones and teeth. This misplacement can result from deficiencies in magnesium and vitamin K2, both of which are responsible for directing calcium to the proper locations in the body. So calcium supplements alone aren't the answer. They must be taken with their cofactors, or they can actually contribute to cramping. What ties this triad together is balance. You don't need massive amounts of one mineral, you need the right ratio among all three. When one is low, it throws the others out of sync. For example, magnesium deficiency can make potassium supplements ineffective because magnesium is needed for potassium to be retained inside the cell. Similarly, without sufficient magnesium and vitamin D, calcium doesn't absorb well or function properly. This is why a comprehensive approach is needed when addressing muscle cramps. It's not just about taking one pill or drinking more water. Also worth noting is the importance of absorption. If you're dealing with digestive issues, low stomach acid, inflammation, or poor enzyme activity, you might not absorb these minerals efficiently even if you're consuming them through food or supplements. Aging further complicates absorption as hydrochloric acid production decreases, making it harder for the body to break down and utilize key nutrients. To keep the cramp-fighting triad functioning properly, focus on whole foods first. Dark leafy greens, nuts and seeds, avocados, fatty fish, fermented dairy, and sea vegetables provide the minerals in a form your body recognizes. Avoid processed foods that deplete electrolytes and worsen inflammation. And if needed, supplement smartly with proper forms like magnesium glycinate or citrate, potassium citrate, and whole food calcium with cofactors like K2 and D3. Electrolytes are minerals that carry an electric charge and are absolutely essential for countless bodily functions. They regulate nerve signals, muscle contractions, hydration, blood pH, and even the heartbeat. The key electrolytes include magnesium, potassium, sodium, calcium, chloride, and phosphate. But despite their importance, most people today are walking around in a state of electrolyte deficiency without even knowing it. The root causes? A diet filled with processed foods and a lifestyle dominated by chronic stress. Well, let's start with processed foods. The standard modern diet is heavily reliant on packaged, refined, and convenience-based foods. These items are stripped of their natural mineral content during processing. When a food is refined, for example, white flour or white rice, it loses much of its magnesium, potassium, and other trace minerals. Even seemingly healthy products like whole wheat bread or breakfast cereals are often fortified with synthetic nutrients that are poorly absorbed by the body. So people might be eating regularly but still suffering from deep mineral deficiencies. Fast food, sugary snacks, canned goods, and frozen meals are often high in sodium, but not the kind the body needs. Table salt, sodium chloride, used in processed foods, is usually stripped of its trace minerals and often contains additives like anti-caking agents. Meanwhile, it lacks the naturally occurring sodium, magnesium, and potassium found in unrefined sea salt or Himalayan pink salt. What happens over time is an imbalance, an excess of poor quality sodium and a shortage of magnesium and potassium, leading to cramping, fatigue, irritability, and even heart palpitations. The second major contributor to electrolyte depletion is chronic stress. And when the body is under stress, it triggers the release of cortisol and adrenaline, stress hormones that prepare the body for a fight or flight response. But this biological stress response also depletes nutrients, especially magnesium and potassium. The more stress your body experiences, whether it's emotional, physical, chemical, or even poor sleep, the more of these minerals you lose through the urine. This leads to a vicious cycle. Stress causes mineral depletion, which increases symptoms of anxiety, fatigue, and muscle tension, which then further stresses the body. Magnesium, in particular, is known as the anti-stress mineral. It calms the nervous system, supports muscle relaxation, and is vital for energy production. But magnesium is also the first to be drained during stressful times. If your body is already low in magnesium due to poor diet and you're going through a period of stress, your reserves can become dangerously depleted. This results in symptoms like tight muscles, restless legs, insomnia, and even headaches. Potassium is another commonly overlooked mineral. It's essential for cellular hydration, muscle function, and maintaining proper fluid balance in the body, yet most people consume less than half the daily recommended amount. Unlike sodium, which is added to nearly every processed item, potassium is found primarily in unprocessed whole foods like leafy greens, avocados, squash, coconut water, and salmon. If you're not eating these regularly, and especially if you're on a low carb or high protein diet, potassium levels can drop quickly. Sodium itself is often misunderstood. While too much processed sodium can be harmful, a complete avoidance of salt, especially natural sea salt, can also lead to electrolyte imbalances. Sodium is essential for nerve transmission, muscle contraction, and regulating blood pressure. People who sweat excessively, exercise intensely, or follow diets like keto may need more sodium, not less. But again, the type of salt matters. Natural sources like Celtic sea salt or pink Himalayan salt provide not just sodium, but trace amounts of magnesium, calcium, and other minerals as well. Calcium is another piece of the puzzle. It plays a major role in muscle contraction, bone health, and nerve function. However, calcium on its own is not the solution. It must be balanced with magnesium, vitamin D, and vitamin K2 to be properly absorbed and directed to the right places in the body. Many people take calcium supplements without addressing the cofactors needed for absorption, leading to calcium buildup in soft tissues rather than the bones and worsening cramping or tension. Lifestyle habits also play a role. Excess caffeine, alcohol, and sugar all act as diuretics in the body, causing you to lose more fluids and minerals through urine. If you're constantly sipping on coffee, grabbing sweet snacks, and not hydrating with mineral-rich water, you're accelerating the loss of electrolytes. Add in medications like diuretics, blood pressure drugs, and antacids, and the picture becomes even more complex. Many of these deplete minerals as a side effect. Replenishing electrolytes isn't just about taking a supplement, it's about restoring the foundation of nutrition and managing stress from the inside out. A diet rich in whole foods, leafy greens, avocados, nuts and seeds, sea salt, and quality proteins provides the minerals your body craves, supporting the adrenal glands with proper rest, adaptogenic herbs, and stress-reducing practices like walking, breathing, and mindfulness further conserves your mineral reserves and helps bring the body back into balance. Certain natural, whole foods are far more effective than supplements in restoring balance because the body was designed to recognize and absorb nutrients in their most natural form. While supplements can be helpful in addressing acute deficiencies, they often lack the cofactors, enzymes, and synergistic compounds present in real food. This synergy is what allows the body to fully absorb, utilize, and integrate nutrients for long-term healing and stability. Whole foods provide nutrients in a bioavailable format, meaning the body can easily recognize and absorb them. Take magnesium, for example. In supplements, magnesium is often isolated and bonded to various compounds like oxide, citrate, or glycinate. While some of these forms are better absorbed than others, they still don't come with the supporting cast of nutrients found in whole foods. When you eat foods like spinach, pumpkin seeds, or avocado, you're not just getting magnesium. You're also getting fiber, B vitamins, potassium, and beneficial fats that work together to support digestion and assimilation. Supplements can also create an artificial balance in the body. Taking high doses of one isolated nutrient can deplete another. For instance, excessive calcium supplementation can lower magnesium levels, and taking iron without copper can throw off mineral ratios that are delicate and interdependent. Whole foods, on the other hand, provide these minerals in their natural ratios, reducing the risk of imbalances that can lead to further health issues down the line. Another key advantage of whole foods is how they affect the gut. The gut plays a major role in absorbing nutrients and maintaining immune health. Supplements, especially in synthetic form, can sometimes irritate the digestive tract, especially when taken on an empty stomach. In contrast, whole foods contain fiber, prebiotics, and enzymes that nourish the gut lining and support a healthy microbiome. A robust microbiome enhances nutrient absorption, meaning you get more from the food you eat over time. Natural foods are also rich in antioxidants and phytochemicals that don't exist in synthetic supplements. These plant-based compounds are not just extra nutrients, they play a role in reducing inflammation, repairing damaged cells, and neutralizing free radicals. For example, foods like berries, beets, turmeric, and dark leafy greens are loaded with compounds like polyphenols, flavonoids, and carotenoids. These can't be replicated in a lab and are rarely present in isolated pill form. They're part of the food matrix that works in harmony with vitamins and minerals to promote healing. Eating whole foods also teaches the body how to regulate hunger, cravings, and metabolic processes naturally. Supplements bypass the digestive and hormonal cues that food engages. For instance, when you eat a potassium-rich food like a baked sweet potato or coconut water, your insulin and adrenal systems respond in a way that supports energy and fluid balance. A pill doesn't create the same metabolic cascade. Over time, real food helps regulate the body's internal rhythms and leads to greater stability in blood sugar, appetite, and energy. Many people also forget the emotional and psychological benefits of eating whole foods. There's a healing ritual in preparing a real meal, cutting vegetables, cooking mindfully, chewing thoroughly. These actions activate the parasympathetic nervous system, promoting digestion and relaxation. Supplements are usually taken hurriedly without thought and can't replicate the grounding effect that real food has on the mind and body. When people rely too heavily on supplements, they may also fall into the trap of thinking that they can out-supplement a poor diet. This mindset can lead to frustration, stagnation, and even worsening symptoms. Supplements can be expensive, and when used incorrectly, they may do more harm than good. Whole foods, on the other hand, are not only more economical in the long run, they provide the foundational nutrition that all healing depends on. Furthermore, many nutrients found in food are not even available in supplement form. Take sulforaphane, a powerful detoxifying compound found in broccoli sprouts, or allicin, the compound in garlic that supports immune health. These nutrients are sensitive to processing and can't be bottled or encapsulated effectively. Eating the food is the only way to benefit from their unique properties. This highlights the irreplaceable role of real food in restoring health and balance. Whole foods also tend to come with fewer risks. Supplements can be overdosed. For example, fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K can accumulate in the body and cause toxicity if not balanced. When these vitamins are consumed in food, they are far less likely to reach toxic levels because the body regulates them naturally through digestion and absorption cues. This makes food a safer and more sustainable option for long-term wellness. The body evolved over thousands of years to eat food from the earth, not synthetic compounds in plastic bottles. Nature provides everything in its proper form. Nutrients in combination, wrapped in fiber, surrounded by enzymes, protected by antioxidants. When you rely on real, nutrient-dense whole foods, you're restoring balance in a way that's aligned with biology, not just biochemistry. Fixing leg cramps starts with correcting cellular mineral ratios, not just drinking more water. While hydration plays a role in muscle function, it's a common misconception that drinking more water alone will resolve cramping. In reality, leg cramps are often a sign of deeper imbalances in essential minerals, especially those involved in nerve signaling, muscle contraction, and electrolyte regulation. The body's cells rely on precise ratios of minerals like magnesium, potassium, sodium, and calcium to function properly. When even one of these becomes deficient or imbalanced, it can trigger involuntary muscle contractions, spasms, or full-blown cramps, particularly at night or during physical exertion. Most people overlook the importance of mineral ratios at the cellular level. You could be consuming enough magnesium, for example, but if your calcium levels are too high in proportion, your muscles may still be prone to cramping. That's because calcium causes muscle fibers to contract, while magnesium helps them relax. The two must remain in delicate balance for smooth muscular function. When this equilibrium is off, even slightly, the muscle can remain in a semi-contracted state, resulting in a cramp. The same is true for potassium and sodium. These minerals work together across cellular membranes to transmit nerve signals. Potassium resides mostly inside the cell while sodium remains outside. This gradient is critical for muscle contraction and relaxation. A deficiency in potassium, especially common in people who consume high sodium processed diets, can interfere with the nerve impulses that tell a muscle when to fire and when to stop. Simply put, you can be fully hydrated, but if you're low in potassium, your muscles may still misfire and seize up. Another overlooked factor is the impact of modern lifestyle and diet on mineral depletion. Chronic stress, excessive caffeine, sugar consumption, and even certain medications like diuretics and statins can deplete key minerals through increased urinary excretion. Over time, this drains the body of its natural electrolyte reserves. So even if you're eating well or staying hydrated, your cells may still be running on empty if the stress load is high, or if you're unknowingly depleting nutrients faster than you can replenish them. The solution is not just to add more water, but to ensure that what you drink and eat supports mineral restoration. This means incorporating mineral-rich foods such as dark leafy greens, avocados, bananas, sweet potatoes, seeds, and nuts, especially pumpkin seeds for magnesium. It also means being cautious with water intake that lacks minerals. Consuming large quantities of distilled or reverse osmosis water without replenishing electrolytes can actually dilute essential minerals in the bloodstream, further contributing to cramping. Another key piece of the puzzle is stomach acid. As we age or deal with chronic stress, stomach acid production tends to decline. This matters because minerals from food are not easily absorbed unless they're broken down properly in the digestive process. Low stomach acid means reduced mineral absorption, even if you're eating the right foods, and addressing digestion by supporting stomach acid levels, perhaps with apple cider vinegar or digestive bitters, can significantly enhance your body's ability to absorb and utilize these minerals. Sweating is another factor that drains electrolytes, especially sodium, potassium, and magnesium. If you're active or live in a hot climate, your mineral needs will be even higher. Relying solely on water to rehydrate after exercise without replenishing lost minerals can actually worsen cramping. Electrolyte-rich beverages like coconut water or homemade mineral broths can help restore balance more effectively than plain water. It's also important to recognize that not all cramps are caused by deficiency. Sometimes it's an imbalance or poor ratio between nutrients. For example, supplementing calcium without sufficient magnesium or vitamin K2 can cause calcium to deposit in the wrong tissues, contributing to stiffness, cramping, or even vascular calcification. A whole food approach ensures that nutrients are consumed in their natural ratios, minimizing the risk of this kind of imbalance. In some cases, lifestyle and dietary changes alone may not be enough, especially if the body is severely depleted or struggling with absorption issues. In these situations, strategic supplementation under proper guidance can help rebuild mineral reserves. However, the goal should always be long-term correction through food, digestion support, and reduction of lifestyle habits that drain the body. In conclusion, leg cramps are not simply about drinking more water. They are a symptom of deeper systemic imbalances that begin at the cellular level. Correcting these imbalances requires a multifaceted approach, one that prioritizes not just hydration, but mineral-rich nutrition, proper digestive function, and the restoration of key ratios within the body. When the cells are nourished and balanced, the muscles respond in kind, and the painful signals of deficiency begin to fade.